I'm setting up an audio system, and I wanted to keep it simple, but unfortunately the room is a horror story for audio use, and I had to shift plans. My original thoughts were to go in the wall, as you can see the speakers in the picture, with a surface mount center channel. I ended up having to add floor speakers because the sound was just not good from the in-the-wall speakers, or not what I would expect for AV. For music, it wasn't bad. So I picked up some Klipsch cabinets and decided we were going to rebuild these suckers and have a little project. The cabinets I picked up were 1979 Klipsch Heresy 1s. They seemed to be the proper size for where I needed to place them. They blended in with my wife's decorating. Got to keep her in mind. The stain seemed to be in good condition. The wood seemed to be in good condition, and it turned out it was. You can also see in the picture I've already placed a new gasket seal at the rear of the cabinet to get a better air seal when the back is screwed back in place. Here we have the Kreitz Type E crossover. I had picked up crossovers for my Forte IIs from Kreitz, and they really made the speakers sound like new. I also got the drivers from Kreitz. I found him to be dependable, and he was a very good source of information for the project. Although the project wasn't difficult, there were bits and pieces I needed to put together to make sure I was getting it right. So everything's laid out nice and neat. You have a nice barrier strip there to make your connections, and they go together very nicely. Here we have the woofer in place. No great shakes there. However, to prevent some shakes, I did put some Dynamat type material on the frame of the woofer. Whether or not it was really needed, I don't know, but I didn't think it could hurt if it prevents a little bit of shake in the frame of the woofer. I also did it on the other drivers. Again, maybe questionable as to whether or not it will make a difference, but it's there. I decided to mount the crossover in the position of the original crossover, which is on the side of the cabinet up by the tweeter and woofer. If I was going to do it again, I'd probably mount it on the bottom of the cabinet. The crossover came with heavy-duty Velcro mounts on it that can just be glued down and perhaps use a little bit of hot glue to keep it in. For where I put it, I did put a couple screws in to help secure it in place. And here we have the drivers all wired into the crossover. The output is not wired in yet. That will be wired in when the cabinet back is set to go back in place. Okay, so very simple wiring. Just got to do tweeter to the tweeter connections, mid-range to the mid-range connections, woofer to woofer connections, all simply laid out and labeled. Doesn't get much easier than that. And here we have all three drivers in place. The tweeter is a CT120. It came as a complete unit. The mid-range is the driver is an A55G and uses the original horn, which is a K700. They mounted in the original mounting holes. They set right into them. I did add a gasket seal to mount them, to seal them to the cabinet, prevent vibration, and get a good air seal. The woofer, as I showed in the earlier clip, is a CW 1228 woofer, and it came with its own gasket. This is them in place prior to the wiring, which actually you saw the wiring in the previous slide. As I continued the update, I added a 5-way binding post and removed the original 2-screw barrier strip that was there. This gives me more options for connecting a speaker. The binding posts came with its own gasket. I did have to enlarge the holes to fit them in place. That was not a big deal. I was able to just do it with a regular hand drill and slid right in, screwed, and that was set. And here from the other side of the back panel, I soldered the wire to the 5-way binding posts. There are terminal strips on the other end, and they simply screwed into the crossover when I put the back on. And here's a finished speaker from the front. I did put them on risers to point this speaker more at ear level. It gives a better spatial representation and better audio field. And here's the speaker from the side. You can see the riser tips it up at a nice little slant to give an elevated signal, and again, it did improve the sound field. And from the rear, with the new binding post in place, the original labels are there, heavily faded after 30 years, and all serial numbers are intact. And here's the speaker all buttoned up with the grill in place. I found a grill that had a walnut-colored grill cloth on it. It matched the cabinet, it matched my wife's decor. I found it on eBay for a sane price, and our project is done. I am not doing an audio presentation here with this. I will probably do something with a second video, but I did not feel like getting hit with a copyright violation with this. So, we will finish it up here. If it helps somebody decide whether or not to go ahead with a rehab project, I'm happy. And for anyone else that was interested in what the innards look like, I hope it helped.